Oh boy. Oh boy. The Oscars. Wow. I didn't think I'd have anything to talk about. If you saw it, you were probably as shocked as I was. Okay, where to even begin? I do have notes, because I'm not going to try remembering all of that stuff just by memory, and if I did try, I'd probably mess something up. Oh man, right from the beginning, it felt weird, I'll be honest. Like, they had Justin Timberlake open with one of his songs, that Dance, Dance, Dance one. I don't know what it's called, I don't listen to his music. But, it felt weird the way they did it, because no context was presented. The ceremony just started, and then all of a sudden, pop music. And yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, did I accidentally tune into the Grammys? Did someone? Is this a setup for where they say, yes, welcome to the Grammys, and then Kimmel comes out and says, oh no, actually it's the Oscars. They didn't do that, but it still felt so odd. Like, even when the other hosts have done musical numbers, and they've done that before, even when they've done that, though, they provide a little context. Like, they'll give a little speech about it first, and then they'll go into it like it's a stage musical. But this, they just went straight into the big dance number, and it felt weird. It's hard to explain. But yeah, not the strongest opening. And then of course, after that, when Jimmy Kimmel does come out on stage, Justin Timberlake tosses him the mic and he doesn't catch it. And I don't know if they had worked that out somehow before, like they were supposed to do that thing. He was supposed to toss it to him, but Kimmel sure didn't catch it. And that definitely wasn't planned. He was trying to keep going by making bad jokes, but when they cut back to Justin Timberlake standing there staring at him, he had this look on his face like, like that. And you could tell that wasn't planned. He was not happy. The thought running through his head must have been something like, well, great, I just threw a... Let me restart that. He must have been thinking, great, I just threw an expensive piece of electrical equipment at you, and you just watched it sail right past your face and land on the stage. It's probably broken now. Thank you, James. Now all anyone's going to talk about is how I made the biggest mistake of the whole night. Little did he know. But I'll get to that. I'll be honest, it was the ending that made me glad I stuck around, because the Oscars were such a slog this year. Yeah, they were predictable. These days, I think they're always predictable. You can generally call the winners, even when you don't know what they are. Like, what was it? That, it was one of the documentary ones. Best short documentary, or... I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. Best short documentary. Okay, it was The White Helmets that won. Never heard of it before. Probably didn't get a very widespread release. And yet, when the moment it was announced, my first thought was, oh, that's going to win. Like, that's how predictable it is. I don't even have to know what you're talking about to know what's going to win. And as for movies that were more widespread, you could generally tell it was a toss-up between Moonlight and La La Land. If they were nominated, they were going to win. And if they were nominated in the same category, flip a coin, I guess, but put the odds in favor of Moonlight. And yes, that's part of the ending. Don't worry, I'm getting to it. I want to build up to it a little, because really, I didn't think I would have anything to talk about. The Oscars were just so bad. Jimmy Kimmel was dying up there, if you ask me. I didn't laugh once. The audience felt like it was more giving him courtesy laughter than actual genuine laughter. Because I've seen actual funny people host the Oscars before. Usually I can at least laugh at their antics, but not this time. And he went way too far with the put-down humor. It felt like it wasn't called for, really. Maybe on his show, yeah, but not the Oscars. But what really killed it was the padding. The sheer insane amount of padding. I have never seen the Oscars padded out that much before. Like, the theme supposedly was inspiration. When did it even become relevant? Let's see, okay, there's gotta be somewhere. Okay, the ceremony started at 8:30. It wasn't until 9:54 that we learned, oh, we have a theme for the Oscars. The theme supposedly was inspiration. What inspired people to get into the movies? Barely mattered. Like, they did 4 routines where they showed a particular actor watching a movie that is the thing that really, like, got them into acting. That was their aha moment when they saw that movie. And then have them come out on stage to present the award with the actor who was the star of that movie. Like Charlize Theron and Shirley MacLaine, I believe, right? I'm just making sure because I don't want to... Yeah. Or Seth Rogen and Michael J. Fox, things like that. But the last one they did was Jimmy Kimmel doing his weird rivalry thing with Matt Damon, which I guess would have made sense if you were a regular viewer of his show, but otherwise it just comes across like he's making fun of Matt Damon for no reason. And then there was one interview where they spoke to, did a montage thing of regular people, moviegoers around the world, saying why they like movies and what their favorite movie was. Otherwise, though, that was the extent of how far the theme went. You could have cut that entirely. The Oscars couldn't have even had a theme this year, and I would never have known if they hadn't brought it up. Because that's how much it mattered. Other years when the Oscars have done the theming thing, you know, they tried to keep it front and center, but this year it felt like they just didn't care. They're like, whatever, we already had to hire a late night talk show host because all the comedians we usually call said no. So who cares? Let's just throw a couple things in there and call it a day. The sheer apathy was astounding. And... But that was only part of the padding. Like, there was also this thing where they diverted a tour bus that they planned this in advance. The people on it just thought they were doing a standard tour of Hollywood, see the homes of the stars kind of thing, but they were actually going to be brought in to the Oscars just completely by surprise. And yeah, nice surprise for them, but what was the point? Like, other than time, what did it add? And it added a lot of time, because it lasted way too long. And again, for the people who were actually there, who got to have this surprise, great! I mean, that's a memorable thing right there. But why did they do it? Why did they allow it to go as long as it did? It overstayed its welcome, if you ask me. It should have just been... They either should have done more with it or less with it, I guess. Preferably less, because the thing was already padded beyond belief. And the final bit of padding was that weird Walmart thing, where they gave some filmmakers receipts with random items on them and said, make a short movie about this. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad idea. They're, the old saying in storytelling, there are no bad ideas, only bad executions. But they could have been cut too. There was no point to them. First one, I don't even really remember much about it. It was too... See, I don't even have anything to say about them. So I'm just going to move on, because they were that pointless. And the padding was especially egregious this time, because the show ran over. All the guides said it was supposed to run from 8:30 to 11:30. Long, but reasonable amount of time for an award ceremony. But then it wound up running till like 10 minutes after midnight. And it's because of the padding. I'm convinced of that. They could have cut all that gratuitous stuff out, and they could have had plenty of time to spare. There was no reason for them to include all of that garbage. No, I don't want to make it sound like the people who got that surprise were wasting their time just because they were wasting mine, but I don't know. It didn't work. None of it worked. I'm sorry. And I thought I was just gonna sit here and struggle to talk about what a boring, padded out mess the Oscars were until the end. First I thought the weirdest thing that was going to happen was that Natalie Portman didn't show up, and the thing they chose to represent her in her absence was the scariest picture of her they could have gone with, where she's like leering at the camera like like a jaguar who was about to pounce and eat you, and the lighting somehow gives her the cat slit eyes that Michael Jackson had in Thriller. And like that's a picture that if you taped that above somebody's bed while they were asleep and they woke up and that was the first thing they see, they would freak out. That nothing against Natalie Portman, I just thought it was an odd picture. But speaking of Best Actress in a Leading Role, now we can talk about what happened at the end. Like I said, when Moonlight and La La Land were nominated in the same category, you could flip a coin to determine who would win, but you generally have to defer to Moonlight because the Academy was always deferring to it every time, it seemed. And so Best Picture comes along, and they say La La Land wins. And everyone gets up there. The whole cast, the whole crew, well, everyone who was there at least, the producers are holding the Oscars, they're giving their speeches, and then you see this guy with a headset coming out and weaving around the crowd. He's clearly something's not right, but you don't know what's going on. He has this very serious look on his face. Something is clearly not going as planned. And then right before the acceptance speeches are wrapped up, one of the producers says, we lost, actually. Moonlight won. Guys, it's not a joke. Come on up. You won. That's like, I literally, like, my reaction, I should have been filming it live, but then again, you would have been as miserable as I was. Because I personally don't know if that's ever happened before. It hasn't happened in any of the times I've seen the Oscars, and given how long the Oscars have run, I suppose statistically it was gonna happen at some point. But wow. And I don't even know how it happened. I mean, I know how, I just don't know how. Let me clarify that. I know the specifics of the situation where the presenters somehow were given the envelope for Best Actress in a Leading Role, and when they opened it, it said Emma Stone, La La Land, and that's where the confusion came from, because they were like, wait, what is that? I guess that means La La Land won? So that's what they announced. But it turns out that was the wrong envelope, I guess. The question is, how did they get that? That's where I say I don't know how, because they'd already done that award. And you would think that after that's done, someone backstage would take the envelope and take the card and put them in like a recycling bin or a discard pile or something. Or maybe whoever won would ask to keep it for a memento. But no, somehow backstage, the card got put back in the envelope was resealed, and then it was put back in the pile for awards that had yet to be given out, which couldn't have been that big anyway, given it was almost the end of the ceremony, and then it was handed back. I really don't know how that happened. I mean, was it because, as Kimmel pointed out, they were using unpaid interns backstage and someone thought it would be funny? Did Justin Timberlake go backstage and sabotage it so everyone would forget about how he broke the microphone? I don't know. But, wow. Almost made it worth it to stick through to the end and see that. I don't even... Oh, man. But, you know, that really says a lot, I think, that the most memorable thing to come out of the last award ceremony was a mistake. And a big mistake, too. Like, that's the sort of thing where next year they are going to go complete George Orwell Big Brother backstage to make sure this sort of thing never happens again. Just, I really don't know how that happened. People will be talking about this for a while. And I don't know if we'll ever know how it happens, because the Oscars are so secure and clandestine and not open as far as talking about the behind-the-scenes process. Or maybe they will reveal it. I don't know. I'm literally filming this the day after. But yeah, otherwise, the Oscars were a drag. Like, even that shocking twist ending couldn't make up for all of the mediocrity and blandness and predictability of the hours that preceded it. And the padding, good lord. Actually, there's one thing that surprised me as far as the awards go, like who won, and that was that Suicide Squad won for Best Makeup. And not that it was a bad makeup job. A lot of work went into doing up all those tattoos, making Harley Quinn's makeup look like it was slapped on the same way every time. And Killer Croc, like, that's impressive. And say what you want about the rest of the movie, the fact that they did Killer Croc practically with makeup instead of just having him be yet another CGI character, gotta appreciate that. But I'm amazed Suicide Squad won for two reasons. One, I've always been under the assumption that people like Suicide Squad as much as they like the other DC movies, which is to say, not at all. I like it, but I know I'm in the minority in that regard. I've yet to speak to anyone else who does like it. Not that I think it's great. We'll talk about the DC movies another day. But the second reason is because it lost to it won to Star Trek Beyond. Star Trek Beyond lost to Suicide Squad in terms of makeup. I can't figure out how that happened either, because, like I said, the makeup in Suicide Squad is good, But look at Star Trek Beyond. Look at the alien makeup. I counted it out. There are like 9 or 10 different alien makeup jobs, ranging from something as minimal as Spock's pointy ears and making them look like they're actually a natural part of the body, to the villain's three different makeup jobs. The 2 really elaborate ones, and the last one that just made him look kind of like old and stretched out. That counts as a makeup job, but those were really impressive. The Suicide Squad was impressive. Star Trek was really impressive, and I don't know how it lost. I mean, one Killer Croc, 8 or 9 different aliens. Oh look, Star Trek still has more. I don't know. That was the only real surprise for me. Everything else, my notes say, called it, not surprised, whatever, called it, yeah, knew it, saw it a mile away. Yeah, the Oscars were... They are really gonna have to make up for it next year. I mean, after the way this one went, yikes. Just yikes. Oh. I just... See, I don't even know how to respond to it, because this is just so unusual. So, yeah. If you were watching it live, I'd love to hear what your reaction was when you saw this. The whole mess up at the end. I'd love to know if anyone else thought it was as much of a drag as I thought it was, if the padding was worth it. Yeah. Well, Academy Awards, there you go. Oh boy. I'll just call that it, because otherwise I'm just going to be repeating myself. So, thank you for listening for a little while. Till such time as we meet again. This is the Omni viewer, still unable to believe what happened. Oh man.